Hi guys, we're back with another topic. Today we're going to be talking about school and life.
See, this is great. It's kind of a good deviation away from the whole feminist debate. I like it.
So, what do you guys think about like the GPA system and like how we're graded as students?
It's hot garbage, friend.
I don't want to talk about this, man.
No, but do you think? But the thing is, like, if you get rid of the GPA system, do you think people will continue to work hard and actually do homework?
Yeah.
No.
They have
No,
to.
I mean people still don't do their
No one's
homework.
gonna
even
do.
if there
No
is
one's
a
gonna
GPA
do homework
system.
regardless.
They rely on college recs.
That's true.
They rely on college recs.
They also rely on their GPA.
If you have no GPA, then the only way to differentiate people is by a teacher recommendation.
No, not even just for like the college process, but just to see like how you're doing in class.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, my like
Oh,
dream.
how about we do? Should homework be compulsory?
I don't know, cause if it wasn't, then nobody would do it.
I mean, even now, homework isn't really compulsory because no one checks it. Bro,
I mean.
But it's like the idea that someone's gonna check it that really gets people working on it.
Yeah, but then like.
But it's like I think we should do homework because we want to learn and get better. I mean that's how you do well on tests.
But do you want to learn?
I mean with my courses, yeah.
It depends what time of the year you're in and like
I mean,
when you want to learn.
For example, if you want to be like a poet, would you really want to do your math homework?
I mean that's the thing. Like, do you think that the subjects that we take should be mandatory?
No.
Like if you are like a humanities person, do you think that we should be obligated to take science?
No.
Kind of.
No.
What's your reasoning for no?
Because I think the reason why we choose certain subjects is because we're better at them. So there's no reason to spend all your effort trying to catch up on a weaker subject if you can spend all your effort into trying to improve yourself on a stronger subject. It's like they want you to thrive, but they also hold you back because they keep you trying, like they want you to be proficient in something you're not supposed to be proficient in.
I think this is kind of true, but in the case of teenagers, we're actually notorious for being really fickle. And so even if you do manage, you're like, oh, I want to do this for the rest of my life, but at the same time, you're only like 15, 16. So what guarantee is that you can actually pursue that career? So
yeah, so because a lot of people don't know what they want to do, so they take these subjects and they learn like if they like the subject or not.
But if you don't like the subject, then the fact that you're being forced to do it is gonna make you hate it more. It's not like you're gonna get like. It's not. Wait, I forgot the word for it. That's something syndrome. Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah. So my like dream curriculum is like we take courses that we like to do, with like mandatory classes, but we don't take tests. But we do like projects and like discussions in class, but no like finals, no midterms, no exams.
Oh, so like projects are graded, but tests aren't. So your GPA is ultimately on your own effort rather than like in concentrated study environments.
I feel
It's
like
not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I feel like if AI got advanced enough, they'd be able to create an algorithm to determine which students are better. You know what I mean? All things considered, because you can't really use numbers to determine how good someone is, but if you had enough capabilities in the realm of technology to analyze exactly how you're doing, it's like it'd be able to predict how good you'd be.
Without having to
But
test yourself.
based on what?
Based on all factors. Because it's more than, right now all we're using is testing and GPA and it's grades, but that's not keeping into account like who we are. It's more of like how prepared we are. But instead, like you have to be holistic in your approach. That's why people do college apps and like college essays and teacher recs, is because they're trying to know as much about you as you can like in a small period of time.
So you think AI is going to make all those things obsolete?
Likely.
Then what do you guys think about SATs and ACTs and all that?
They're hot garbage, friend.
Hullabaloo.
I hate them so much.
Because it's so crazy. Like people get good scores based on like luck and like guessing answers.
It's a test of endurance rather than your own intelligence. And and so depending on how it kind of shows, it's actually ingenious in the way how she measures your willpower than anything else. Because with SAT, it's disguised in the fact that if you study, you'll actually get good grades. But it's a matter of how willing you are to actually study to achieve your goals, and how I guess focused you are in the entire
do you
path
think
to
that
college.
the SAT is studyable?
Yes.
SAT's a business. ACT's a business.
Yes.
That's what I think.
But
There's a reason why they
They're
charge
studyable.
every year, and there's a reason why they don't put enough effort into making the questions original enough to not cheat off of.
But then again, the testing environment itself is very hard to get to cheat off of.
But it's like it's a really good business because colleges require it in a lot of
It's
time
also a very
because
profitable business too.
it's a very profitable business because
stupid kids have to take it over and over and over.
yes.
And the prices
So
get
the
higher and
harder
higher
the
and higher.
tests are, the more money they make.
That's why the tests are all hard now.
Yes.
So that's why they are putting in the effort to make sure they're not cheatable, and also that everyone feels that the questions are adequately difficult.
I don't think anyone feels that the questions are adequately difficult. It's just they're just stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Like the more you think about how everything is related to economics, it's kind of scary.
Like business in general.
School, education.
Is business inherently evil?
No.
No.
If you consider profit making evil, then yes, it's evil. But no, I don't think. I don't
No,
think
it
the
can be
aspect
evil,
of
but I
making
don't. I
profit
don't
is
think the objective of profit making is evil.
I mean, yeah.
It's like a human survival tactic.
Just because you're making a lot of cash doesn't necessarily mean you're evil, and like the ways you actually make that cash, in the ways of like standardized testing, for example, you might be perceived as being like kind of an ass, but at the same time, like that's not really like evil per se. It's just a means of a means of profit that you can actually obtain, and no matter how sly you may be, that's kind of the path you might take.
Taxes or tax cuts for the rich? Which one?
Oh.
But that's hard.
So is this like in relation to the entire
I think taxes.
prices thing? Oh. Why?
I don't
how
believe
so?
in tax cuts. I mean, it depends. I don't know. For business
Because
people.
the U.S. Congress recently passed a bill that basically slashed the corporate tax to like 15%, something like that, from like 30-40%. And so, what do you guys think about that? Do you approve?
I think if we because the people handling our taxes, don't we vote for them?
We don't necessarily vote for them. They gerrymander themselves into districts where they have devout supporters.
But like technically legally speaking, we vote for them, right? The people who handle our taxes.
Yeah.
Oh. It's just that sometimes you might go through sus means.
I feel like the U.S. government should have more people. You know why? Because we're
like
voting.
local governments?
Yeah, no, it's like local and federal. It's like they need to spread out their areas of expertise. For example, if you vote for someone, you could vote for someone based on abortion, but they might have a really strict policy on taxes. It's not necessarily. It's like apples do not make oranges. Like they don't correlate, except they end up being shipped off to Washington, either way. And so shouldn't you be, instead voting for perhaps like a culture minister or like something like that, like because, number one.
Like a mini UN.
Essentially, because the U.S. Congress is essentially a mini UN. But I'm just saying they should have more delegates.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, because like.
Because someone that is a representative of like economics isn't a representative
it would be much
of
more efficient
women's health rights.
If the U.S. government, especially the houses of government, were separated into the economic committee, the cultural committee, the social the welfare committee. They already have like the ethics committee, but they're just like made up of current members. Couldn't we just vote them in separately? I mean, it'd be inefficient at the beginning, but eventually it'd be much more efficient as in the function of government, and it'd create more jobs. It'd be.
So instead of a one Betsy DeVos, you want like 5 people running education, like instead of one representative.
No, I'm just saying, instead of having one person represent an entire county's beliefs, have them vote for specific aspects of their beliefs. It's like, if you want higher fiscal taxes, then you vote for a different economic minister. If you want abortion or non-abortion, then you vote for someone who would vote on that in this separate allocated committee. Because the U.S. government has too many issues for a room of 50 people, 50 senators to deal with. I mean, it's like determining the fate of 300 million people. Why not have more?
So you're saying that there should be a lot of more people focused on like specific subjects. So
I could see, honestly, I could see like thousands of people being in the U.S. government, but instead there's like it would also get rid of.
But people would say like, oh, that would just create chaos and more disagreement.
I mean, look at the UN.
True.
To be fair though, they're like divided into countries and anything, not exactly like policies itself. But I mean,
they represent the country's policy.
So
in the same way that a congressman represents their district's.
But the danger of that is like, usually when a representative is voted in, you vote the majority party, the major party wins, right? So if all of these people are elected, and let's say they're for tax cuts, and then the women's health representative is like against abortion, so you know what I mean? Like, it's gonna give them more power for a certain party. Sorry.
Not necessarily. It'll help get rid of the I think it'll help get rid of the two-party system. Because basically there's only two sizes for Americans, large and medium. But what if you have longer arms? What if you have like a smaller torso? But instead everyone has to wear the same T-shirt. It's either this or this. And in the past election it was a lesser of two evils scenario. But if you could choose which aspects you want like, because if you don't agree with both sides, then that doesn't leave you a choice. But what if you had more options available? You could cherry pick what you want to be represented like by.
Yeah, I like that.
I see where you're coming from, but for like when it comes to the presidential election, for example, you know, so when you actually put a lot of politicians in like the same party, like what you're saying is that those kind of people, like, you have no choice but to vote for certain people who represent many things. And so by splitting them up, you kind of see how people might deviate for certain ideas and not just like follow one. I mean,
because you know those polls where it's like, are you a Democrat or Republican? It's like, are you for abortion? And okay, so Democrats, a lot of Democrats might be for abortion, but a lot of them might not be.
And still consider themselves to be
So
Democrats.
that's why you're gonna
it's basically it's so convoluted that, for example, if you vote a Republican, you're voting for guns, you're voting against abortion, you're voting for
there's like strict
lesser
rules
corporate
for
tax.
each party.
There are specific things that don't necessarily they're not like black and white. It's so gray.
So you're saying instead of dividing like representatives up into parties, up into beliefs.
Yeah.
Like individual beliefs.
Yeah.
So
that's gonna be a lot of people then.
Tying this back into like the discussion of SAT prices and like stuff, do you think like there should be people in education kind of managing this thing?
Yeah.
Like specifically
Managing what though?
It should be regulated.
Because
like college board, like college board.
So should your mom.
So like I think back in the entire discussion of whether people making profit doesn't necessarily make them evil. If we go back to the discussion of maybe we have certain people managing different things, do you think that will kind of quell the entire idea of prices or like people over excessively extorting money through like the examination system?
The tribute system.
It's basically a modern day tribute system, or like the jinshi, or whatever it is. Yeah, it's practically what the ACT and SAT are, but I guess in a more quelled sense.
So college board would be regulated in terms of how much money they earn.
Maybe, but do you think there should be like people in charge of managing this, like government officials in charge of managing like standardized testing?
I feel like they wouldn't care enough.
It all boils down to questioning big government or small government.
I like how you're like tying this back into like America as a whole. It's like a preconceived notion as the government of America in the politics.
I don't think the government would care about SAT.
You think so?
Yeah. I really don't think
There's
so.
not much
They
of like a
should care.
relation between the two.
They should care. Yeah.
I mean, then again, you know, standardized
Right.
testing is something that is kind of like an own realm of themselves, like their own. They hardly like in the world of politics. In the end, they don't. I'm not sure if they know much about education and how this thing works. And so
Who? The government?
yeah, because like SAT and ACT are basically like in their own world and realm with their own rules, and so and because of this, it's even better because colleges actually follow these rules. They conform to like the
It's because they're
the
the only
ideas
rules out
of
there.
yeah, they're the only rules out there, and so.
Basically a duopoly.
Do you think there should be like competition?
Yeah.
And more competition within standardized testing, there's like a wider variety of things and
Yeah.
wider variety of testing.
Wait, what does that mean?
No, but it also make it more confusing.
That's true. Because like there's also the debate of whether or not standardized testing should be focused on just ACT and SAT like centered, or just a wide variety of tests that people could do to enter certain colleges. I mean, there's already that kind of thing implemented, but at the same time, that's only for like countries, right? Because like Britain, for example, they don't really look at SATs.
You know.
They don't, or just European colleges in general don't really.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, the entire idea of prestige always boils down to taking SATs in order to go to like a prestigious American college. That's kind of like the preconceived notions of everyone.
Americans were always very uptight with what they want. It's
Mhm.
like how they didn't adopt the metric system, and how they made everyone else abide by their
Except
rules.
Liberia.
Yeah. Guys, I think the Republican Party is like Zack Snyder.
That's a
It's
good
like,
analogy.
It's like the DC extended universe. Their movies are very cynical. They're never very popular.
Mm-hmm.
There's hype,
They're very popular.
but it doesn't quite live up
No,
to
they're
hype.
popular. Yeah.
They're very popular. But then,
They fail in the eyes of the critics, but they're praised in the eyes of the people.
That's so accurate.
They're extremely cynical. They're extremely dark. They kind of
Did you
twist.
see an article about how Donald Trump ran as a Republican because it's easier to gain popularity from as a Republican
He was a
candidate?
Democrat until 2011, and then he changed over.
I don't think he's a Republican.
He's not a Republican.
I don't think
He's as much a Republican as Bernie Sanders is a Democrat.
Yeah. I mean, Bernie, like, you can argue that Bernie Sanders is, like, borderline communist or socialist.
Yeah, like he's as much a Republican as Paul Ryan is human being.
Wow.
The analogies. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. That's why I don't like believe in the two-party system. It creates too much division, I think.
Yeah.
And there's
also
not
that,
much
like,
conversation going on
but
because Democrats don't listen to Republicans and vice versa.
It's gotten worse over the years.
Yeah.
So
I've been
that's
George
why
Bush.
if we get rid of the two-party system and we like implement the representative based on belief, I think there's going to be a lot more like negotiation and conversation.
Then again, you see this kind of duality everywhere in the world. Like even in Korea, you
'Cause
see
there's
like
order.
Henry and Minju, right?
Yeah.
But even Henry's been split into like parts. But even then, you kind of see this entire idea of splitting into conservatives and liberals. That's kind of like the entire idea of
There's so much
politics in
tension
itself.
between.
Yeah, and also it's people have to consider that not all conservatives and liberals have this kind of mindset. Like even in Korea,
Like extremists.
yeah, the conservatives are actually people who are pro globalization for the most part. They're people who are actually when
Liberal.
you boil down to it, actually have more democratic beliefs than people who consider themselves to be more liberal. And like the liberals actually are you can argue they're more Korea centered. They're like they're more centric on their own policies and stuff. So then again, you can only see that duality in places, but the means in which they communicate their own conservatism or liberal ideologies, they kind of differ from wherever you're standing.
Why can't we all just get along?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that will never happen.
Why?
It's too idealistic.
Why is it too idealistic?
If we were all nice to each other, we'd never.
Why are
never
we
get
nice to each
anywhere.
other?
We'd never get anywhere.
I know. I mean, I've
Why
always.
can't we never get
We
along?
actually, I think humanity partially it kind of fuels with conflict. It learns through conflict, and so the more it.
But do we have to learn?
But
whether
we've
that
never
is through
learned.
debate-
Like I feel.
But we don't learn.
Yeah,
We always repeat history.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, sure, you had another world war, but then again, those are technically for different reasons. And
Yeah,
so,
but we repeated. We're basically repeating the Korean War. We're basically repeating the.
how so?
the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
I mean, it's conflict that's there, but they haven't learned from it because they haven't engaged in enough debate or conversation. Like, conflict doesn't always have to resolve in like war. It's more in the means where people disagree with each other, and by getting along, it's kind of implied that these people, if you define getting along as like agreeing to disagree, then maybe I can actually understand that. But the fact that there is conflict, I think that means where people can actually progress.
Where do you think this conflict stems out of?
For example, I know this is kind of weird, but I've always heard that there are people who think Genghis Khan was someone who actually paved the way for more innovative empires and things in general because of the mass destruction he did. And so when you by actually paving his own culture and doing a means where he's kind of like, where historians described him as like destroying, as like burning the fields for more grass to grow. But like after like they use the analogy of the forest fire, and now after the forest fire you actually have more means for supplement necessity, and so you actually prosper more than you did before like the actual tragedy. And so I kind of see that and kind of as an implication for conflict as a whole, because although there might be wounds that might occur as a consequence, like if you idealistically look at where, oh, if we had no conflict, we had no issues in the world. And so by conflict, I think we actually develop and become more complete human beings.
But there's necessary conflict and there's unnecessary conflict.
That's true.
It's the same as there's necessary pain
No.
and unnecessary
You know
pain.
how there's like conflict between,
That's true.
like internationally, like between two nations, but what about like inner conflict? Like where does that rise from? Like the Chinese Cultural Revolution, that basically like it was because Chairman Mao hated Western culture. Like
No,
so is conflict dictated by the powerful people, or is it like a conflict between the government and the public?
What do you think?
there's two sets of conflicts. Grassroots, top down. Top down usually stems from jealousy, power struggles. It's almost people at top sometimes feel entitled, entitled to something bigger than what they have. That's why they try to take it, and that's what happened to the Taiping Rebellion. Rebels.
Racial history.
And then there's the bottom-up rebellions, which was the Taiping Rebellion. So it's like
It goes both sides.
I think it goes both ways. It's like there's an ebb and flow to everything. There's ground up, down. I mean, look at history, and there's always been like ground up, top down, and so it's kind of like maintaining an equilibrium, I guess. If one side has too much power, then the other side tries to equalize it. If one side feels too powerless, then they try to take power.
So you don't believe in the division of power? So you believe that people should hold power but not too much?
No, I think people don't want others having too much power.
When they don't have power?
When they don't have power.
So what do you personally believe? Do you agree with that? The fact that people should like have a measured amount of power?
Whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger. Okay, you wanna end it here?
Okay, thank you guys for our very spread out conversation.
We should have a topic next time.
Yeah, we'll choose a topic next time.
Yeah. So
Okay.
stay tuned and
Stay tuned.
Shout out to Julie and
Lynn,
Lynn. Yeah.
thank
Shoot.
you.
Yeah.